Math 3, Unit 9, final review. We are talking about geometric modeling. The first equation we're going to use is density equals mass divided by volume. This should be something you know. You do this in chemistry, right? Okay, so a 30-gram block of wood, and that 30 gram is talking about what? The mass. And the shape of a rectangular prism has these dimensions, which are also written right here. What is the density of the block of wood? So in order to find the density, we need to know the volume. And how do I find the volume of a... Very good. So 12 times 5 times 10, which equals 600 what? Good. So when we are finding our density equals mass, which is 30 grams, divided by 600 centimeters cubed. And then you can reduce. Remember, when you have 1 0 at the end, you can do 1 0 for 1 0. You're actually dividing by 10 to the top and the bottom. Hopefully your cell phones get put away shortly. Thank you. And then 3 and 60 we can reduce. So 3 goes into 60 how many times? 20 times. So we end up with 1 over 20 grams per centimeters cubed. Questions? And you add a decimal? That's fine. Okay. Next example. A rock with a mass, so they're telling you the mass there is 240 grams, has a density of 4 grams per centimeters cubed. So sometimes you have to find different information. So we have the same formula, density equals mass divided by volume. So you have 4 grams per centimeters cubed equals 240 grams divided by RV for volume. Now, for some of you, having this information, like the units, looks confusing sometimes. Do you know what your answer for volume, which units it'll be in? So you already have grams on top. The bottom will be centimeters cubed, correct? And so I'm just going to write centimeters cubed because I know my answer will end up being in centimeters cubed. And then you can write the problem without the units if you want to. And how do I eliminate the fraction? What do I do? I can multiply by v to both sides, so that cancels. We have 4v equals 240. And we divide by 4, and the answer is what? 60. So that means the volume is actually, don't forget your units, 60 centimeters cubed. Okay? Any questions? All right, population density. Okay, with your population density, it's always people divided by the area. Okay, so here a city has an area of 4 square miles. So they're telling you the area, you don't have to find the area. And they're telling you that the population is 280,000. What is the population density? So what are you gonna do? Just, yeah. Over 4. And then again, you can reduce. 4 goes into 28 how many times? 7 times. So that means the answer is 70,000, and it's people, which is PPL, per square mile. And I'm going to write that as mile squared. Any questions? Okay, next one. An island has a population density. So they're telling you the answer is 10 people per square mile. Okay? And it has an area of 1,700 square miles. What is the population? So the formula is population density equals people divided by area. And so in this case, we're going 10 equals This is the area, so we're just going to put a P on top, and then the area is 1,700. So what will I do to find this answer? Very good. So it's 17,000 what? People. Any questions there? Okay. The next one we're going to talk about is this chart. Okay, so you really need to pay attention to what they're saying over here. Height is one-dimensional. Perimeter is one-dimensional. But area is two-dimensional. Surface area, still dealing with area, is two-dimensional. And then volume is three-dimensional. Good. So these ratios that go in that order. So if this is 2 to 3 and one-dimensional, perimeter is also going to be 2 to 3. But area, you will square 2 and square 3, which would make it 4 to 9. Surface area is 4 to 9. And then volume is cubing the 2 and the 3. So that means it would be 8 to 27. Okay, any questions there? So on our next column, what will be the height ratio? 3 to 5, and then it'll be for what for the area? 9. Perfect. 9 to 25, and then good. Okay, so on this one, then when they give us the 36 and 49, what do I do in order to get back to the one-dimensional? Very good. So you take the square root. So what's the square root of 36? 6 to 7. And so both of my one dimensions are 6 to 7. This one will be what? Surface area is 36 to 49, and then volume is 2. Okay, the last one here. So in order to go backwards, we have to take the cubed root. Good. What is the cubed root of 64? 4. Good. And 27 is 3. So these are 4 to 3. And my two dimensions will be
16.
Perfect. Do we have any questions on those? Okay. So now we're going to be using ratios to solve these. Okay. The two boxes below are similar and both have to be wrapped with decorative paper. If it requires 4 yards squared of paper to cover the large box, calculate the amount of paper needed to cover the smaller box. So this box takes the larger one 4 yards. The first thing you're going to do is look at your ratios. Okay, and so my ratio right now, and this is one dimensional right now, is 24 to 16. And we need to reduce that. So what can that reduce to? What can you divide both of them by? Okay, so I got the 24 and 16 right here.
Oh.
We can divide by 8, reduce by 8, and so this makes this 3 to 2. Now, they told us that the wrapping paper covers the box. When you're covering the box, that's dealing with what? Surface area. Okay, and so in terms of surface area, that means we need to deal with what dimension? 2 dimensions. So we're going to take our ratio, and the ratio I'm going to end up using is going to be what? 9 to 4. We're going to go 3 squared and 2 squared, which is 9 to 4 for this problem. So all you're gonna do now is write a proportion. I'm gonna write 9/4, so that is large to small. I know that the large box says how many yards does it take? 4. So it's gonna be 4/, and we're trying to find the smaller one, which would be x.
Don't you have to change the...
No, I made it way more complicated when I taught you guys this original. It's better, sorry. So we cross multiply, and we get 9x equals 16. Divide by 9 to both sides. That cancels. And so you could leave it as a fraction, or if you put this as a decimal, it is 1.78. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I just repeat 27, so.
Okay, so 1.78 yards. Now, if they asked it in inches, you could convert yards into inches, but I don't think you're going to need to do that. Okay. All right. Any questions? Okay, next one. The figure to the right is 2 shampoo bottles that are mathematically similar, and the volume, okay, of the smaller bottle is 5 cups. So we're going to go volume equals 5 cups, and that is for the smaller one. Find the volume of the larger bottle. So the first thing you always start with is finding the ratio. And again, this ratio here that we are dealing with, they're giving us the height, which is what dimension? Height is 1 dimension, okay? So when I write my ratio, I have 18 to 27, and you could write 27 to 18, it doesn't matter, and then we're gonna reduce that, and what does it reduce to? 2 to 3. So my 1 dimension is 2 to 3, but volume is what dimension? 3-dimensional. So that means I have to go 2 cubed to 3 cubed, which is what? 8 to 27. So again, we're going to set up our 2 fractions or proportions. 8/27 equals, and where is the 5 going to go on the other side? On the top, because it needs to match with the smaller one. Okay? So that would be 5/x. Okay? And then we just cross multiply. We get 8x equals 27 times 5 is 135, and then we divide by 8 to both sides. And so x equals,
16.875.
so we're going to go 16.9 cups. Okay, questions? Next example. Okay, the cylinders to the right are similar. The surface areas of the cylinders have a ratio of 50 inches squared to 72 inches squared. So right now, the ratio I have is surface area, okay? And they said it is 50 to 72. And it wants to know what is the ratio of the volume. So surface area is what dimension?
2.
It's your 2 dimensions, okay? And so we want to first reduce this. So what could I reduce both sides by? 2. And you end up with 25 to 36. So if my 2 dimension is 25 to 36, you first need to get to your 1 dimension before you can get to your, exactly. So what would be my 1 dimension? 5 to 6. So that means for my volume, it's going to be what?
125.
Thank you. And all they asked was for the ratio, so that's what we gave them. Any questions there?
They were asking for more.
Then you would set up your proportion like we did in the other problems.
You don't need to include pi or anything for you.
Possibly, yeah. Okay. A projectile is fired vertically upward. Its height h after t seconds is given by this equation. 2 questions. What is the maximum height? And at what time does it reach the maximum height? Okay, so when we're dealing with the maximum height and how high something is going and how long it takes, what is the thing that we want to find? Someone is right here and they are shooting up something into the air and it hits the maximum height, right? And then it has to come back down. What is that called? That is a parabola. Okay? So what is that called right there?
Vertex.
That is your vertex. Is this coming back to you? Okay, so in order to find the vertex, we need to complete the square. We want to put this in vertex form. Okay, I would start by, bless you, rewriting this as negative 8t squared plus 48t. And then I would need to complete the square in order to find the vertex. We've already kind of reviewed this with a different unit. Do you guys remember what to do here? Go ahead. Yeah, this was the equation, sorry. Okay, so you'd start by taking out a negative 8. When you're completing the square, you can't have a coefficient in front of your squared term. No, not for completing the square. You want to keep that there by itself. So then we have t squared. When I divide 48 by negative 8, what do I get? Negative 6t. What goes next? Plus blank. There's no number here that I have to add outside of the parenthesis, but sometimes there is. And then because I have negative 8 times the blank, we're going to need a positive 8 times the blank in order to balance the equation. What do I do next to complete the square? Good. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and negative 3 squared is 9. So 9 goes into each of those blanks. We write the equation, h equals negative 8, parentheses, and what is my square? T minus 3 squared. Is anybody confused by why it's t minus 3? So remember, it's this factors to be the t minus 3 squared, okay? Or you can always remember that whatever the half number is when you're completing the square, that value is what goes in here. If it's negative, it's negative. If it's positive, it's positive. Okay, and then at the end, if you had multiple terms here to combine, you would. But all I have is 8 times 9, which is, so plus 72. So based on that information, can you tell me what my vertex is? 3,72. So what is the maximum height? What would you guys say? 72 is the maximum height. They never told me if it was feet or anything like that. Okay, but you could just put 72 units. Okay, at what time? What would be the time it reaches the maximum height? What? Since it's asking what time does it reach the maximum height, that's right there with your vertex. So that is 3 seconds, and they told us the time was in seconds. Okay, any questions there? Okay. So this next one, you have these revolutions. It says draw the solid of revolutions that is formed by rotating a quarter circle about the indicated axis. So what do you think is going to happen there? So this is your x-axis, right? So it's going to rotate over this way, and it ends up, it's going to make like a hemisphere kind of thing. If it's rotating around, it's going to make a solid figure. Are you with me? No, you're not with me. I'm trying to think if I have something shaped that way. But so you have this quarter circle. If you're rotating it around this way, does that make sense why you'd have another half circle here? Okay.
So it just creates another part.
And because, think about this, if it's coming out, you know what I mean? It's going to end up making like a half circle, a half of a solid circle as it rotates. But I can't think of anything I can show you. I'll think. Okay. When it's going the y-axis, it's going to do the same thing, but it's just going to be going across the y. And it's like this part right here is just dotted because it would keep going around. Does that make sense? It's going to end up making a full half circle. Okay. Okay. Draw and describe the cross sections formed by the indicated slices of the figures below.
I remember that we had
Okay. So A, what do you think A is going to end up being?
Sure.
Yeah, so you're just taking one slice out. It's going to end up being a circle. So you have a 3D figure, you're taking out a slice that's going to end up being two-dimensional. Okay? What is going to be B? Okay, so this is actually a hemisphere, okay? Spheres are 3D. And so this one, it's going to be 1D when you're cutting it out. It's going to just be a half circle. Okay, and as it cuts, it's going to be, I can't draw them very good, but we're just going to go like that. Okay, and then what do you think the slice will look like if it's going diagonal through this?
And a ellipse.
Good. It'll be an ellipse, which is like an oval. Something kind of like that. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so volume. You guys need to remember these formulas, but they're not hard to memorize. Most of you know volume, okay? And your volume is always your base area, which is what the big B stands for, times your height. So whatever your base is times your height. Now, when you have cones and pyramids, those ones are always 1/3. And remember that video that we watched where they're filling up all the liquids? Mm-hmm. And we saw that cones and pyramids are always 1/3 of it. So really you just have to remember base area times height, and if it's anything that goes to a point, it's going to be 1/3. Did you want to ask a question, Jen? No? Okay. So this figure, and if you read, it tells you that it is a square-based pyramid. Now, what is this 12 pointing to? The inside. It's only, this 12 is only half of the square. Would you guys agree? Half of the length of the square. So that means my base, this whole length is actually how much? 24. So if I'm finding my base area, what would be my base area? It would be 24 times 24, because a square or a rectangle is always like your length times width. Okay, and 24 times 24 is 576. Good. Okay, then we have to take that and multiply it by our height and then 1/3. Well, do I know what my height is? Okay, how do I find it? Good. And so we have, we're just going to call this h. So h squared plus 12 squared equals 15 squared. H squared plus 144 equals 15 squared is 225. You subtract 144 to both sides. H squared equals 81, which means h equals 9. So that means that when I am finding the volume of this pyramid, it will be 1/3 times my base area, which is 576, times the height, which is 9. And then I would reduce. I would go 3 goes into 9 3 times. You could multiply the tops and divide by 3 if you want to. And then the volume ends up being 1,728 what? Centimeters cubed. Good. Okay. Questions so far? Okay. So on this one, you have the truncated where they're like cutting off the top. And this is where our proportions and everything comes into play. It is the only way really to find out is to figure out what the top pyramid is in order to find the bottom truncated part. Does that make sense? So we have to find the volume of the top part to see what was taken off to figure out what's left. Okay? Now, so there really is like a triangle, another pyramid up here that was cut off the top. So if they're telling you this is 6, how much is this right here? 3. And how did you know that was 3? Good. The whole height we knew over here was 9. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. So if we're thinking about our ratio, okay, this pyramid is 3 over this pyramid, which is 9. And that reduces to what? 1/3. Is everybody okay with that? Now, in order to find the volume of this top part, I need to know the height, but I also need to know how much the whole side is, right? So there's a couple ways of doing this. We could do the whole side, or we could just do half of the side. If we do the whole side, so that means we have a ratio of 1:3 equals x over, and what's the whole side on? What is it? 24. Is everybody okay with those numbers? Okay. And so we cross multiply. We get 3x equals 24. We divide by 3 to both sides, and so x equals 8. So that means that the side up here is 8, the whole side. So what do I do in order to find the volume of that small pyramid? So 8 is this whole side right here, because you know how I did the whole 24? So the side of the top, so that means like this little triangle, this is really a 4, but each side is 4 and 4. Are we still confused? Yeah, so how would I find the volume? We have to start by your base area of that small pyramid at the top. And so your base area would be 8 times 8, which is 64. So finding your volume would be 1/3 times 64 times what? 3, your height, right? So the 3's cancel out, and your volume is what? 64 centimeters cubed. So now we just need to go back and read what the question asked. And it said, find the volume of the square-based pyramid, which we did right here, and the truncated form. So how do I find the truncated form now that I know how much was taken off?
Subtract.
Good. And so we subtract 64 from here, and we get what?
1664
1664
centimeters.
centimeters cubed is the volume of the truncated form. Okay, any questions? Yes. Any other questions?